A nature trail is more than a path. It's a place for laughter, self-reflection, and a breath of fresh air. All Trails Plus helps you plan your next hike so you can relax and enjoy the journey. Discover new trails near you with the Distance Away feature and get immersive trail previews and offline maps so you can take those exciting first steps with confidence. Get outside today with 3 free months of All Trails Plus. Just use code podcast23 at alltrails.com/podcast. That's 3 months free at alltrails.com/podcast with code podcast23.
Leftovers. Or the DMV.
Number 97.
Or house cleaning. Or
Chumba Casino always brings the fun. Play over 100 different games online for free from anywhere. You could redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. Live the Chumba life. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
And your first live.
Yeah, buddy.
How does it feel?
It feels great.
It feels
to be
great.
honest.
I'm happy to finally have you here.
It's been too long.
You've been brought up in several different episodes, so it's my great honor and pleasure to finally introduce the one and only Sheldon. We've heard a lot about him behind the scenes. He has been a big factor in the production and the equipment end of this, so we are happy to have you. We, like there's fucking 3 of me.
Yeah.
We are happy to have you.
I'm happy to have me, too. Yeah.
So that's kind of fucking exciting.
I'm a pretty big deal. I haven't even been here yet.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Just been waiting. Just been waiting for that message, you know? No big deal. No, it's all good.
No, it's great. I'm here. I'm doing it. You guys are going to hear a lot more from me in the future. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to get started. I'm excited that we finally did get started, or me.
Yeah, I'm. Like I said, it sounds fucking cheesy, but I was kind of hoping for that message,
Right.
you know, just without trying to be too pressured.
Like an ex-girlfriend.
Kind of, yeah. Like just tell me you miss me.
Sitting in your closet, just staring at your phone, refreshing constantly.
Text me, please. But I got it.
You did.
So,
yeah.
Oh God, I'm already crying about it. That's exciting. Fuck, I was gonna say something before that, and I already forgot. You got me all emotional.
I have that effect on people.
I'm super excited to air everything. You've said a whole lot before recording, and it's all very amazing shit, very amazing content, and I'm excited to hear it all again. Before we got into this, we were talking a little bit about your circumstances and being diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah.
Okay.
ADHD.
And you were saying some pretty interesting stuff, and this is one of those topics where I would ask for the listeners, with your input and your advice, to please, shoot us some input here as to your experience with this diagnosis and these particular medications, because I think that him and I are two different scenarios, different cases. We're a different age group, so everything he was telling me was specific to him, but it was super interesting to hear. Do you want to kind of start from the beginning?
Sure. Yeah.
I found it extremely interesting.
So a little bit of just like sort of a heads up first. I am getting over a cold, so if I have to like clear my throat a couple of times, I apologize for it. It's coming back. I almost didn't come because of it, but then I was like, fuck it. I probably sound all right.
I might have threw some heat at that. I apologize.
No, you're good. Next thing I want to say is that, yes, I do have ADHD. I also have ASD.
What's that?
Autism spectrum disorder.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so, although this is my experience with it, or a little bit of my experience with it, ADHD does affect everybody differently. So just because these things work for me, or this is how I went about like getting a diagnosis or getting help for it, it doesn't apply to everybody. It may apply to you, but having ADHD is a case-by-case basis for everyone that has it. So there are some things that are kind of like a general, it helps for people with ADHD or just people that aren't neurotypical in general. But it's very hard for people to... If I went on some sort of forum and I was like, this is what I do and it'll help you with your ADHD, that's just simply not true. It might, but most of the time you kind of just got to find your own thing that works for you.
I find it so interesting that quote-unquote chemical changes can mean a world apart in specific diagnosis that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy how one person can process something completely different from another. And that's why I was so interested when you started talking about it, because my case, being diagnosed as early as I did, was completely different from what you're going through as an adult.
Yeah.
Which is super bizarre to me, because even the medication you're on, when I was taking it as a child, which is probably part of the problem.
That's definitely the problem.
As a child, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
My chemical imbalance was indefinite because I was a child.
Right.
But you're taking something that helps you, but it's something that I took that made me way fucked up.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because, and I don't understand it fully about, like, there are dozens and dozens of medications that help with ADHD and help cure whatever thing you're missing in that chemical balance for it. I don't quite know what the difference is exactly between something like Adderall and something like Ritalin, but it is definitely interesting how it affects people differently. And I'm willing to bet that if you went back to a psychiatrist now and, you know, you explain to them that you have ADHD, you've been diagnosed with it, and they put you on a medication, it might not work how you want it to work at first. You have to sort of find a medication, try it at different doses, try the extended release, or, you know, taking it twice a day. Some people take it once in the morning, once at night. I take an extended release, so just once a day, and it lasts all day, as long as I need it to. Mm-hmm. But I bet that if you were to go back and you were to get put on some different type of medication, like maybe Adderall works for you, but you just kind of got to experiment with it until you find your dose. But once you find your dose, then nothing changes from there. I mean, it's pretty consistent throughout. Over time, there is a possibility that you outgrow that dosage and you just become too used to it. But I've been taking my dose of medication for almost 2 years now, and it works the exact same as it did day one as it does now.
Man, see, it's I don't mean to undermine the fact that everything could be a world apart from me now. I'm honestly not even 100% sure that is the case with me even to this day. When I got through most of my high school years, they changed their diagnosis from, you know, trying to blame medication and blame ADD or ADHD, and they changed it to just a lack of general interest. So I'm not really sure where things stopped.
Well, that's sort of the... So mental health as a whole
Right.
is not even close to being as understood as it should be
I agree. I agree 100% with that.
by anybody, by like professionals, doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, anybody. And so that's kind of one of the stipulations for having ADHD is a lot of people get told that they're just lazy or they don't care or that, you know, they're just slacking off or it's a behavioral issue or it's bad parenting or something like that. And
God, sounds like my entire high school life.
yeah, and the simple fact is that, like, yes, that kind of stuff does exist. I mean, there's just lazy people.
It sure does. It's definitely a percentage of it.
Right. But for somebody that genuinely has ADHD or something else that affects their attention like that, it's not for me personally, but it hurts when you get called these things and you get put into these different categories of just being lazy or not caring, or like if you forget something or something doesn't seem important to you because you're not showing a super high interest in it, or you know, maybe you're having trouble having a conversation with somebody, or just not moving if you have like the hyperactive part of ADHD. It hurts being put in that category when you don't understand what exactly is happening to you. So you go a large portion of your life under the assumption that you just suck compared to other people and you're just worse. You're just bad.
Dude, I'm loving this introductory episode. It kind of takes me back to hear you say all that shit, especially in the way that you said it, because yeah, I mean, everything that you just explained, like the emotion behind what's happening is fucking hard, you know, and you described it perfectly. Is I remember, like, distinctly in my algebra class specifically, I never got through algebra. I never understood it. I don't know why I just didn't. Geometry, it was great.
Right.
Algebra, no, I couldn't fucking do it. But I remember, like, getting scalded so many times for all the things that you were kind of describing, you know, just that I was just lazy or I just didn't want to do it or whatever the case may be at that specific time. And I remember doing paperwork or tests or whatever the case may be, and just remembering, like, staring at the paper and, like, trying to force myself to just, like, dial in and to focus. And it wasn't a matter of me focusing. I just was trying to find whatever the fuck information it was that I needed to get through it.
Right.
And I never fucking had it.
Well, that's a big portion of it is memory recall, or what they call working memory.
Retention? Somewhat.
Retention, it isn't so much affected by ADHD because you could do research, listen to things, basically any learning style that you have, you can utilize and retain information. The issue is recalling that information, or obviously if you're fed too much information at a time, too many things going into the input, your working memory just simply doesn't work the same as neurotypical people.
I feel like that was definitely a part of it for me.
Yeah.
Because they'd feed me some shit, whatever the case may be in whatever class, and I wouldn't even understand that before they'd move on.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, well, cool. That was fun.
Well, and that's the thing, is, one, schooling's really hard in general, especially when you're taking something that is generalized, such as if you're going to college for just, you know, you don't quite know what you want to go for yet, so you're just going and taking like your gen ed classes, or going through elementary school, middle school, high school. The thing why those are so hard is because there's so much that you're not interested in, and you couldn't care less to do any of those things again. They just simply don't interest you.
Right.
Because they just don't interest you. It's pretty...
Yeah, why would you actively retain something that literally has no interest to you?
Right. It's not that it's useless, it's just not interesting to you.
And to take it a step further, the way it's being taught.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like, in my high school, I had a very good algebra teacher for my algebra 3-4, I think it was. And that was probably the first time that I got an A in one of my classes, was because the way that she taught the algebra was so next level.
The teaching method.
She had such a good method of teaching it in very simple ways, with using a bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with math to solve the problems. And those kinds of things are the things that stuck with me, is those other things.
What about the rest of your class? Do you know the statistics from the rest of the...
Well, fun fact, I've never passed an English class ever.
Really?
Ever. Not in middle school, not in high school, not in college.
Wow.
Never. For some reason, English to me is one of the hardest things for me to grasp. It's not interesting to me. I don't really care. I can speak fine. I know a good amount of big words and such, but the whole structural part of it, where you use, different punctuation, and I'm more so the kind of person to just dump a bunch of words on a page. Like, I can say a lot. When they would tell me to write a 2-page essay, I would write a 6-page essay, but there was no structure to it. It was just a fucking, like, I threw up words on a page.
That's super interesting, dude, because you're... God damn, dude. Look, I don't know, the more and more that we talk about this shit, I find myself in more and more question. You and I are, like, what the world would consider polar opposites.
Yeah,
like
to an extent.
To an extent. We're not talking personally here.
Right.
But I'm talking about, like, your career is a world apart from my career. Your career would be considered something that somebody at a very high level of intelligence would have to, which obviously you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude, I fucking... Why do you think I've been tooting your horn on here the whole fucking time?
Right.
Yeah, and I have a job that requires a caveman's education. So...
Yeah.
I don't know, the fact that... I don't even really know what the English class... I don't really completely understand what the direct class is about.
Yeah, I have no fucking idea.
But my point was that you said that you did not do well with essay and English.
Nope.
The classes?
Not at all.
So writing and English were terrible?
Well, yeah, and there's the reading aspect of that too, where they're like, read this fucking book and then write me a paper on it. There's no goddamn way I'm gonna be able to read a fucking book. Like, I read 2 sentences and then I have to reread them because I forgot what they said.
Oh, that was my biggest problem.
And not only, it's not just once. I have to reread it and reread it and reread it. And it's not because the information isn't staying in there. It's that I don't give a fuck. I don't want to read this
The
book.
interest is not there.
I have no interest in... I've only read 1 book in my entire life, start to finish. And the only reason that I read that book was because it was interesting to me. I dove into this world, and I found myself, like, every time I came back to the book, I just wanted to know what happened next. I wanted to know what the next thing was. And the book is Twisted, by the way. Great book. But some of the things that they make you read in English class is so fucking stupid. Like, why would anybody be interested in that?
I feel like that pretty often. Or I felt like that pretty often.
And so that was probably one of the hardest things for me, is these like book report kind of things. I was the kind of person that would just go, look up a summary on this book and then fucking try to write a paper about it, because I can't be asked fucking reading a book. Like, there's no way.
So let me ask you this because I have a thought process here that I think is it's kind of funny. What did you excel at the most in school?
Oddly, math and chemistry. I got an A in chemistry.
Great. So I know how to dispose of a body now. I'm just fucking.
Yeah, to be honest with you, the only reason that I got an A in chemistry is because my chemistry teacher let me listen to music while in class.
No shit.
And she was the only teacher that let me listen to music. And having music playing while learning and taking information, say whatever you want, but for some people that really does help.
No, dude, that's how I function today.
Yeah.
Like,
when I'm
doing my job, I have a fucking headphone in.
Right. It's one of those things where if I'm not on my medication and I have to focus on something, there's very small chance of that happening. But it's almost like the more chaos that you create, the more input you create, the better you can focus on something.
Dude, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Well, there's something we have in common.
Yeah.
Do you do that with work today?
Well, yes. I'm fortunate enough to work in environments where I can listen to music or listen to podcasts pretty much the whole time that I'm there.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this.
Yeah. And I like that because I like to learn. I constantly like to learn new things. So, one, it helps me get through the day because it's just like listening to something that I'm interested in, and it makes time fly by faster. But I also don't get a lot of time outside of that to learn new things, to just sit down and do research like I used to be able to when I was in high school or something.
Right.
So it really helps when I need to refresh my memory about something, or I'm trying to learn something new, that I can listen to that, basically just a series of videos or a series of podcasts on this specific topic. Because if I don't keep up on it and I don't hone in and just listen to like this one category of videos or audio, then it just disappears from my brain forever until I refresh myself again.
Interesting.
Yeah.
To go back to your thought on adding chaos to make true function of a situation, you kind of spoke to me when you said that, because in in my line of work, for example, one of the things that I have to do daily is clean up accidents.
Right.
So when I get to the scene of an accident, nobody fucking knows what I'm driving up to. The scene could be one car on one end of the intersection, flip sideways into a tree. The other one could be, God knows, you know what I mean?
Right.
You get it. So it's chaos as it is, and I have to handle it all. But for some reason, adding more, i.e. music, somehow makes me pinpoint and direct myself correctly the first time.
Right.
Without backstepping or double stepping or whatever the fuck.
Well,
Leftovers or the DMV
Number 97.
or house cleaning or Chumba Casino always brings the fun. Play over 100 different games online for free from anywhere. You could redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. Live the Chumba life. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Leftovers. Or the DMV.
Number 97.
Or house cleaning. Or
Chumba Casino always brings the fun. Play over 100 different games online for free from anywhere. You could redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. Live the Chumba life. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Yeah, so things are different for me now because I am medicated. So being medicated versus being off medication are two way different worlds, and it happens overnight. I could take my medicine one day and I cannot take it the other day, and everybody knows when I am not on medication because it's a lot different. I mean, it's not bad by any means. It does get bad if I don't take it for an extended period of time. It's horrible. It's a fucking nightmare. But so being on medication, I don't really require many other things to help me put enough focus on something that I need in that moment. But I enjoy it. I enjoy listening to things. I enjoy watching things while I'm working on projects or while I'm trying to learn, while I'm trying to do something, just because it's something that's satisfying to me, and it's been sort of a habitual thing up until this point, is that when I'm trying to get in the zone, I'll put on something to aid that. So at this point, I wouldn't necessarily call it a necessity, but it is something that I highly enjoy and that I would probably keep doing. And I'm not really sure exactly why, when I'm not medicated, why having that input helps with focus. But from my experience, when you're trying to focus on one thing, you tend to focus on everything else besides that. And so when you have a constant, like a song playing in your ear or a podcast that you're listening to, it gives, like, that is the distraction portion of it taken care of. So that constant thing happening is like one of the multiple things that your brain is focusing on, so that you can sort of listen to it like subconsciously and then focus on what you actually need to be doing. It sort of takes care of that need to look around or to wonder what that sound was that you heard, or those little bits and pieces of things that distract you in whatever task that you're doing. It seems like having that constant is there to either drown it out or to just have one of the different avenues that your brain is trying to take you on filled up with something, so that it allows you to focus on whatever task that you're doing.
That's an interesting distinction. I find that fascinating, and I don't understand why. While you were saying that, again, going on the topic of focusability and how much you're focusing on, I was thinking about it, and maybe I kind of was thinking about possibly trying to document some of these scenes that I was talking about, so you can probably wouldn't be made public, because that I don't want to be offensive to the families involved.
Right, it's a sensitive thing.
Right, it sure is. But maybe for you, I think you'd find it pretty fascinating, especially if you hear me in the midst of all of it, talking to myself or laughing to myself or singing, whatever the fucking case may be.
Right.
But in the midst of everything, I'd be interested to hear how much I verbalize about what I have to do, or the cops that I have to communicate with. Just kind of see
the
millions of different mixes that it goes by, but one of the things I did kind of want to dabble in a little bit to get a little bit more off topic. It's kind of off topic. What are you're taking only one medication actively?
Yes. So I only take Ritalin every day.
Uh-huh.
I do have anxiety medication that I take on an as-need basis.
Is that as a result of, or
It's sort of unknown. Different things like comorbidities of having ADHD is depression, is anxiety, is I mean it could be any number of things that alone you could have depression, you could have anxiety, and it brings some similarities to ADHD, or that would pinpoint a psychiatrist or a doctor to say that you might have ADHD. But also the flip side of that is that when you have ADHD, things make you anxious. I mean, things make you obsessive. Things make you depressed. There's a lot of emotional dysregulation in ADHD. People who have it have a hard time regulating their emotions or expressing them appropriately. And for me, with also having autism, I have things that I am hypersensitive to, whether it comes to emotions or like noise sensitivity or something added on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it a bit harder in general. It kind of exacerbates all of those things that come with ADHD. But
so that anti-anxiety medicine, was that before the Ritalin?
no, that was after.
So that comes with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I was taking it for any reason, like because of the ADHD or because I started taking something to help with my ADHD, so then this other thing became stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Like now that I had the main problem taken care of, now there was this side problem of me expressing anxiety or expressing depression.
Okay, I see.
But I've always had an issue with anxiety in some situations where it just takes over my body. And there was a period of time where I would have these like strings of episodes where I would be having anxiety attacks way more often than any human would ever want, and because it's fucking awful. And so I decided to do something about it. But for the longest time, I wasn't against taking medication for like depression or anxiety or something, but I just didn't really find that it was necessary, because I had sort of a skewed understanding of depression and anxiety, because it wasn't something that I had my whole life. The depression and anxiety portion of my mental health has sort of grown with me. It's becoming bigger the older I get, and sort of like more pronounced in my daily life. But I don't have it too often. I'm a generally like really happy, positive person. I try to keep that as my lifestyle all the time, 100% of the time. But there are occasions where something is out of my control, and I have this saying to where if I'm feeling anxious about something, I say to myself, well, like, is there anything you can do about it right now? And if yes, then do that thing. And if not, well, then don't worry about it, because there's nothing you can do about it anyway.
Right.
But when that doesn't work, because there are times that it doesn't work, then I can take my anxiety medication, and it depletes that from spiraling out of control.
I see.
Yeah.
God, that's so it's so interesting to think about, because kind of the breakdown and what you feed yourself to kind of break a situation into a controllable thought is something that I do pretty often. I just don't know what it looks like. I just don't know personally what it looks like to have it spiral further.
It's fucking horrible.
I can only imagine. I've had a couple of panic attacks in my life, literally only like 2 or 3, and they scared the shit out of me, for one.
Yeah.
That's fucked up what that does. So I can't imagine people that experience that often.
Right. Well, panic attacks are bad. Anxiety attacks are fucking horrendous.
Oh, okay. Let's help me understand the definition between the two.
I don't fully know enough about the differences to give a
Right.
an accurate depiction.
I don't either.
But I would say, from my understanding, panic attacks are lesser and shorter than anxiety attacks. Anxiety attacks, in my opinion, unless something stops the anxiety from spiraling out of control, it will not stop. So if the thing that's causing your anxiety is, most of the time for me, it's that I don't have the answer to something. I'm thinking about something, and in my brain, I'm trying to come up with all these logical explanations of why this thing is happening, what the purpose of it is, all these different outcomes of it, all these different possibilities, all these different things put into this. But until I reach out to the person or get the answer to the question, because some things you just can't have the answer to something.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
That you don't know.
Right.
And so
I don't think that's unfair.
And so without getting that answer, the anxiety won't stop. It'll consume you until that need is met, because your brain is constantly trying to scramble to find an answer for something that you just it's literally impossible to find the answer to unless the answer is given to you. And there's different examples of that, such as if you if you get a call saying that your loved one has been taken to the hospital, but you have no updates on what's happening. No one's giving you any information. You just know that they're in the hospital and they may or may not be dying at any moment. And so the whole time you're just sitting there processing, trying to figure out what's happening, trying to get answers to this thing. Or if you think that your loved one is cheating on you, or you're convincing yourself that this is actually happening when it's not, or if you're trying to figure out how you're going to come up with enough money to pay this thing, and you can't because you have all these other things that you need to pay for, and so but you have to pay this thing, and you're like, oh fuck, what am I going to do? I just don't have the money for it. And so these are, in my opinion, these are all things where, unless somebody tells you, oh, your loved one is fine, or your loved one is not fine, or you talk to the person you think is cheating on you and they give you an explanation for something, they either calm that worry, they say, oh, don't worry, it was taken out of context, or it actually is happening. or if somebody gives you a way that you can have enough money to pay these bills, or that you're gonna be okay, you will just keep spiraling out of control. It's like you're falling into a void of darkness, and there's a bunch of things on the way down that you can grab onto, but for some reason, every time that you grab onto something, you just keep slipping.
You find a way to make it fall apart.
You can't grasp onto something,
right?
And no matter how hard you try to grasp onto that thing, you're going to be feeding yourself all these false answers of like whatever logical explanation you're trying to come up with yourself. You're trying to answer your own questions, and when you try to answer your own questions, it's just not going to happen.
So, I feel everything you're saying like very close to home. I don't really exactly. I don't have any way to put into words exactly what I've done mentally or structurally for me. But because of some of the things that I've been subjected to, I just feel like I've kind of forced myself into this like this shit happens, and it happens to me, and I do have moments of panic. I'm not sitting here telling you I don't, or I don't have anxiety, or shit doesn't fucking twist my mood, or whatever the case, however you want to word it.
Right.
But for some reason, over the last probably like 5 years, man, I've just been like, when this shit happens, I'm like, the world's not going to stop turning. I mean, I have other shit to handle too. And I just find this ability to just put it to the side, kind of.
Right.
I don't really exactly know. Like, it's just, actually, now that I'm putting it out into words, I would say what I'm actually doing is probably not the best thing for me.
I would agree.
I'm just negating something that needs to be handled.
Right.
But it's also something that I can't handle in that moment. Is kind of where I'm going. It's like if this is something that I'm gonna have to handle in the next couple of days, when the money comes in, or when I meet this person, or whatever the case may be, then I just find it within my head to just compartmentalize and shut that the fuck up.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, if I think about it outside of that moment, then it will bring up a moment of pretty severe anxiety.
Well, that's the thing. Is that you can distract yourself, right?
That's a good way to fucking put it.
Yeah, you can find ways to distract yourself, but that, exactly what you said, that's the issue, is when you're alone and that thought comes back up, you're right back into the spiral like you never left.
Right back in it. And I'm alone for the better part of 12 hours a day.
Right.
In my fucking truck. So I have all the time in the world to think about shit.
Yeah. And so that's one of those things where if you don't handle that issue, or you don't get the answer to this thing, or you don't fully sit down and deal with whatever this is that you're feeling, it's just not going to go away. It could temporarily go away if you distract yourself and do something to take your mind off it, but that doesn't matter. It could be weeks, months later, and you could be sitting alone, and say you're trying to go to sleep or something, and a little thought leads you back into this fucking depth of horror. You're just going to spiral out of control again. You're not going to be able to sleep. You're going to be having a fucking terrible time. You might wake up in the morning after you finally go to sleep using whatever method you can, or just laying there until you're too tired or something. And then the next morning, you might not be thinking about this thing again. But it'll come back up. It'll come back up.
Indefinitely.
Right.
Until it's solved.
Yeah, exactly. Because until you fix the problem, it doesn't just go away. Yeah, I would love one.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem, man. Is like, this is why I love doing this shit so much. I love for one, I love doing this fucking podcast. But to take it a step further, I love talking because every time I talk to you, like putting shit into words and having I shouldn't say that because I don't want to demean the rest of them. Having an appropriate conversation and putting shit into words really opens your eyes.
Yeah.
To circumstances. You say the word distraction, man. I'm like, that's the core of it.
Yeah.
It's purely just distraction for the moment. And I think this particular circumstance speaks to a lot of people because there's a lot of people in the world right now going through a lot of different shit.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds super vague, but I'm talking about like we're in the USA. The financial situation here is strained.
Yeah.
The politics that follow everybody's views and points is strange. We're being put to a test, not quite as much as a lot of people, but I'd say we're all a little stretched right now.
Yeah.
And I struggle to believe that there is another format to people dealing with this anxiety other than day-to-day distractions.
Well, so that's a very common temporary solution.
Okay,
that just
so
gets put on repeat.
That's kind of where I'm headed with it.
But after a while, I mean, like the stuff doesn't go away. So after a while,
it sure as fuck doesn't go away. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. You're gonna have incident after incident after incident. If you're somebody that struggles with depression and something happens to you that brings that out of you, that triggers that PTSD or that triggers that feeling, and you're just like, oh no, I'll just put on a fake smile and I'll go out and I'll hang out with my friends and I'll distract myself. I'll play video games. I'll go to work. I'll try my best to be a normal, happy, functioning person in society. But then when you're alone, you're just fucking miserable. And then something else happens to trigger that, and something else happens to trigger that, and something else happens to trigger that. Well, eventually, you're going to get to this breaking point where you're going to start letting the depression, the anxiety, the whatever you're struggling with consume you so much to the fact where you start shutting people out. You start not doing these things that you like to do to distract yourself. You start not hanging out with friends. You don't feel the desire to play that game anymore. You don't feel the desire to go to work anymore. You don't feel the desire to really do anything.
Right, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and the deeper you fall down into this thing, it's only going to get worse.
I don't remember who I was talking about this with, but one of my other guests, I think it might have been Zach at one point, but we were talking kind of about I don't want to use the word repercussions, but that's kind of the results of compartmentalizing this shit within yourself.
Right.
Kind of what you're headed toward, but the result of keeping that shit in for so long without dealing with it completely is, that's asking for demolition.
Yeah.
You're going to have, and I think we described this a little bit, there's going to be a breakdown.
Yeah.
There's going to be a point in time where your mind speaks for you, and you're not going to have that choice anymore.
Right. Well, and then on top of that, imagine that you get so far down deep in this thing where you just stop having any motivation, any desire to do anything.
Right. No more passion.
No passion. No, you don't want to go to work. You don't want to hang out with friends. You don't want to play video games. So you lost your job, which you may or may.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Leftovers. Or the DMV.
Number 97.
Or house cleaning. Or
Chumba Casino always brings the fun. Play over 100 different games online for free from anywhere. You could redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. Live the Chumba life. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
May not have enjoyed. You lost your friends who are, keeping you afloat, keeping you up. You might lose family. There really is no winning if you let this kind of stuff consume you. It's just going to get deeper, and it's going to get heavier, and it's going to get worse. And once it gets, you have to take control of it. As shitty as it is, as bad, I've been so depressed. I've been so absorbed in anxiety, and where I have started to just not give a fuck about anything. There's been times where I've left several jobs just because I decided that I didn't want to go anymore.
Right.
And I've missed opportunities to hang out with friends and to go see my family. And the thing is like that whatever it is that you're going through that is causing these issues, there is a fix. You can talk to somebody, you can get help, you can get answers, you can find a solution that is better than putting it to the side. But what you can't replace is losing friends, sometimes finding another job, losing family. For example, like my grandparents are like the hands down the most important people to me in the entire world.
Your grandparents?
Yeah, my grandparents. They're basically my parents. They mostly raised me growing up. And there's been times where I haven't wanted to go see them because I'm so absorbed in my shit that I'm like, well, I could. They only live a few minutes away, but I just don't want to. I can't fucking get up. I don't want to take a shower. I don't want to fucking do anything. I just want to sit here and be sad. Well, the thing is like they're not going to be here forever. So then what?
Right.
If you let this thing consume you so much to the point where you just don't fucking handle it and you start losing these friends and these families and stuff, what happens when they're gone? I mean, that's infinitely worse. Mm-hmm. And the thing is like you don't have to let this shit consume you. There is a PTSD factor to it where it will always be there, most likely.
You're gonna have reoccurring reactions to certain shit.
Yeah. But there's a bunch of stuff you can do to pull yourself out of it, and instead of the majority being you're happy 20% of the time and you're fucking miserable 80% of the time, you can hang out with your friends, you can do those things you love, you can go to the gym, you can change your lifestyle to flip it so it's 80% happy, 20% fucking miserable.
Right.
You can find somebody, you can start a family, you can do all this stuff if you don't let this consume you. And it's hard. It's not an easy thing to overcome at all.
No, it's not.
The same thing goes with just having ADHD. It's fucking hard, man. People have such a skewed interpretation of like what ADHD is and like what people who have it deal with and go through, and there's a large group of people that just think it's fake bullshit, that it doesn't really exist. There's some people that think, oh, if you have ADHD, you're blessed. It's like a gift. You're gifted because you have the ability to hyper focus on things, and you have this like bubbly personality and all this kind of stuff. It's again case by case, but the reality of it is that there are many good things that come along with ADHD. If I could start over and choose to not have it, I wouldn't, because it has fundamentally made me the person I am today, that I have been my whole life. On medication, off medication, I have this perfect balance of this thing that has developed out of this thing just being a part of me, and it's great. There's a lot of pluses, but there's a fucking whole lot of negatives that come along with it too. It's not pleasant, especially if you're not medicated. It is fucking miserable.
There's a whole lot about what you just said that I'm not gonna lie, raises a lot of question marks for myself, not for you. Because I understand why you would not want to. Why you wouldn't want to change anything, because you are. I do find you to be, for one, a super intelligent and a super amazing human being. I admire you as a friend, and as a professional in what you do. But in my personal experience growing up with what would have been diagnosed, and kind of the more you delve into it, I kind of vibe with it a little bit more. Because if you really break down the terminology, it's attention deficit.
Hyperactivity disorder.
Yeah, it's a lack thereof, you know.
Yeah.
And well, it's a lack thereof in one department, one fundamentally important department, and the ability to focus on things that you're really, really wanting to focus in on, or you know what I mean. So the ability truly is a wonderful thing on one end. But I can't help but wonder, after going through school the way my experience was, and this is why I feel like we're going to have a lot of fascinating conversations, man, because your outlook is at the core almost 180 degrees different from mine. And I feel like the more and more that we conversate, it should be more similar.
Right.
In some degrees. But we seem to have very different experiences with it. I wouldn't sit here and say that I regret it, or that I wouldn't do it the same way. If I told you that I wish that I knew what it was like to choose whether or not I got good grades, I would say that I wish that I knew what that was like.
Yeah.
Only maybe that's a selfish viewpoint. Maybe that's an irrelevant viewpoint. But I wish that I knew what it was like to have the choice.
Yeah.
Because there are things that I excelled in very well, which I was going to bring this up earlier and I completely forgot. Ding ding. You experienced a very high quality of math investment, and not so much in the writing and English.
Yeah.
I find that interesting because I was the complete opposite.
Yeah.
The polar opposite, dude. I could not do math to save my life. But English and writing, I didn't even I hate reading, just so we're clear, for the same reasons that you do. So that similarity alone, I could read a book, sure. Retaining it, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So they'd ask me to do that, the book report, and I feel like the book that I probably skimmed through, I would create enough facts and enough plot points and important points to work my way through it.
And then you still got a fucking D on it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But it passed.
Right.
So that was kind of interesting to hear, because I feel that a lot, reading things that maybe you're just not necessarily interested in.
Yeah.
They just don't stick.
Well,
like, I don't want to fucking read this book. Why the fuck am I going to tell you about it?
Here's another portion of that I think is really important to address, is that I think that the act of learning anything is circumstantial. So, for instance, I went through high school and I could not pass geometry. I took it. I took like 1-2, didn't pass it. Somehow got put into I got put into 1-2 again, and then I got put into 3-4 because I had to. I don't really quite remember, but I didn't pass it either way. Whatever the fuck it was, I didn't pass it. For some reason, the teacher that I had, he was an incredible teacher. He was like a super good guy. He was really fun. I loved being in his class, but I couldn't pass geometry to save my fucking life. But since I didn't pass a lot of my classes, I ended up having to go to an alternative school. I had to take a second year as a senior, and the alternative school was basically just like a shorthand at your own pace, make up all of the stuff that you failed throughout your 4 years in high school. And then once you did that, no matter when it was, there was no, like, you have to be in school from this date to this date. It was basically whenever you finished the class and finished all of your classes, you would graduate. You'd finish one, move on to the next one, finish one, move on to the next one. And in that, so I had to take geometry 1, 2, 3, 4 again in that class. And something about me being in control of it, of how fast I was learning things, how learning it my way, essentially, I got a fucking A. Now, granted, it was probably like dumbed down a bit because, you know, you're taking these full semester or 2 long classes in a shorter amount of time. Mm-hmm. But something about me having the control over it made it so much easier to understand. Not being pressured to do something in a certain amount of time, like you have homework this day, this day, this day, you have a test on this day, that made it considerably easy for me to get through. And so I passed it with an A, both 1, 2, and 3, 4 in that environment, which I found was, you know, I had no idea at the time that it had anything to do with me having ADHD or anything. I just thought I sucked. I was like, well, I didn't give a shit about high school, really. I wasn't there a lot of the time. I skipped class a lot. There was times that I would only go and show up at like 6th and 7th hour, but I would just stay home for the rest of the day. I was really depressed. I had a fucking terrible time in high school. And so I thought that my lack of desire to be at school was just because I fucking hated it, and I felt like as a rebellious teenager that I didn't have to be there, and that if I didn't want to, then I wouldn't. And so I just like I didn't give a shit at the time until I hit about my like late junior year, senior year. I was like, I can actually do this stuff because I'm not any smarter, and I'm not any dumber than anybody else. These things are very obtainable to learn. The learning part of it isn't the hard thing. It's the retaining the information, the working memory, the recalling everything back up when you get a test put in front of you and you're like, fuck, I know this but I can't remember. And then you have this limited amount of time where you have to regurgitate this information that you fucking have lost somewhere because you have all these other inputs of information coming into your fucking brain that makes it hard for you to actually put all that stuff you learned into practice and then, you know, excel at it. But at that point in my high school career, I was like, fuck, man, I can do this. I can get A's. I'm smart enough to get A's.
Like junior year?
Yeah.
You know, it's fucked up that you say that, dude. Because you talking about that kind of revitalizes what I do remember from my high school life. And now that you say that, man, like, I feel like the most retention that I had is from, like, late junior, early senior year.
Yeah.
Like, that's when I really was starting to go through it.
Dude, I fucking failed PE.
I never had PE because I had band. They were like, he's fat, don't do it.
I excelled at all of my elective classes. Of course.
Right.
Because I picked those, and those were things that I enjoyed doing. So I wanted to be there. I wanted to learn the stuff. I wanted to be artistic and creative, and I wanted to excel at those things. But fucking like English and like history, I like all of that stuff, but I don't care about it. I don't give a shit, especially going into a world where you don't necessarily need to know all of that stuff because you have things that can do it for you.
You know what pisses me off and finding out that a lot of the history was bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm super not thrilled about that, by the way.
Yeah. Off topic. It may or may not be. I don't know.
I'm involved in enough conspiracy theories. We're going to leave it at that.
Yeah. I was going to say that's one of those things where like I just don't. It doesn't directly affect me.
No, it doesn't. What high school did you go to?
I went to Shadow Mountain.
Okay. What you said you went to the alternative school?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna call it a continuation.
Sure.
What school was that?
It was called ALC.
ALC. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I found that extremely interesting because I did too. I went to one shortly after the first semester of my senior year, and also had the same results. Because they shorten it up and they fucking expedite everything.
Right.
And I had the exact same results as you. Where when you're treated a little bit differently and things are a little bit different circumstances, you can do things at your own pace, a little bit more one-on-one, learn how you need to.
Yeah.
Things really started pulling through.
Well, and there's a lot of mental stuff that comes with that too. Like, you're having a hard time with things, and so you go to class the next day, and the teacher's like, hand in your homework assignments from the previous day, and you don't have it done, and there's something about that makes you feel so fucking terrible.
Makes you feel stupid.
Stupid, embarrassed, just
dude.
lazy, and especially if that's your pattern. Like, now all of the kids and the teacher are just expecting you to not have your shit done.
Yeah, because you're at the front of the class fucking failing.
Right. It's embarrassing. But when you don't have that expectation, you don't have the teacher hovering over you, you don't have these things that you have to do when they say you have to do them, it makes it a lot easier.
It does.
And for me, it made me want to keep doing this stuff because I didn't feel bad about it while I was doing it. I was like, okay, I'm actually learning this stuff now, and it interests me. Like, this is cool. Mm-hmm. I understand this finally. And there's no, there's not that pressure of, oh, you got a big exam coming up, and once again, you didn't turn to your homework, or you did it half-ass, or you did it fucking whatever.
Yeah, because I don't know how to fucking do it, dude.
Right.
I just don't know how to... What do you want me to fucking write out the shit I don't know how to do? I feel like this is a very continuing issue that goes unaddressed.
Yeah.
And it frustrates me because towards the time that I went to my alternative school, they were considering special ed classes for me. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you one way or the other as far as the development and how it would have worked for me. I don't know.
Yeah, special ed isn't bad by any means.
No. I would never... I'm not turning that down by any means.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works, and I don't understand any of it. I never went through it. But that's what they were considering for me at one point.
It probably would have been actually more beneficial. I mean,
considering the fact that I wasn't understanding the learning techniques of the what do you say of the rest of the crowd, then probably.
Yeah.
But at that age, throwing something like that around is especially when you've gone through that much of high school.
Well, yeah, I mean, at that age,
now you want to introduce something like that,
right? Let's be real. At that age, you're like, oh, it's kind of embarrassing.
Right.
Like, I'm taking this special ed version of this class because I'm too fucking dumb to figure it out.
And at that point, that's kind of where I was. They fucking floated my ass through high school because they thought that I just had learning disabilities up to yin yang.
Right. Well, you did.
On paper, I guess,
I mean, ADHD is a learning disability.
True.
Yeah.
True.
And there's nothing wrong in that. The issue is that so many things in the world, inside and outside of education, are geared towards neurotypical people. So the people that fall out of that realm are the people that kind of get fucked. And there are certain schools and certain programs and stuff that you can have exceptions made. For instance, like you could have an extra hour to take a test if you have ADHD or something, because that's something that you might need, or you can be taken out and put into a room by yourself. And they do make like exceptions for that, and they try to help you as best they can. Not all schools, I think, do it, but there are some schools that are starting to incorporate that a little bit more, because we have a better understanding that,
which is huge,
right?
Outstandingly huge.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I forget, how old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay, so it's 6 or 7 year difference, give or take. Maybe a small disadvantage to my points is just that time frame may incorporate a little bit more understanding.
Yeah.
Also, too, maybe my school.
I mean, now mental health is definitely, in my opinion, taken more seriously.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Because it's been proven that these people aren't just fucking stupid, and depression isn't just something that you can just turn on and off. And if you have ADHD, you're not just a result of your parents' bad parenting, and
right.
It's not a behavioral issue.
Right.
When I was a kid, my principals and my teachers tried to tell my mom that I had ADHD, and at that age, I was probably like 5 or so. At that age, there's really nothing you can do about it except for put them in a program that is geared around giving them a little bit more focus and attention, a little bit more one-on-one. Mm-hmm. Like I was a preschool teacher, so I dealt a lot with for a while actually, and I dealt with a lot of the kids with the IEPs or the mental issues like autism, ADHD, the quote unquote difficult kids, as the other teachers would put it. But having somebody that understands what they're going through and how their mind is working is so beneficial to them. Like having that person that can sit down and be on their level and spend an extra little bit of time to focus on them helps out enormously, instead of just being like, listen, parents, you have a kid who's a real asshole.
Yeah, you guys suck at what you're doing.
You have to fucking fix this because it's a behavioral issue. I fucking hate when people say that. It's something about my behavior. It's hard. If you don't have it, you just don't understand.
That's incredible, dude. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, well, I've done a lot of things.
To be cheesy, I'm pretty excited to see you as a dad.
Well,
I haven't seen you with the baby yet, but
and that's kind of a big thing as well, is that I know that he's probably getting a real shit end of all this stuff. Like he's probably gonna have some sort of ASD. He's probably gonna have ADHD because it's very easy to pass down. My grandpa has it. My mom, my brother has it. I have it. Mm-hmm. Like it's a very strong thing to pass down. A lot of mental health stuff is. And so knowing that and also having the experience, but knowing that I know how to better help him through school, through all of these things in life that he may be wondering, like, why is this so hard for me?
Absolutely.
I can do this. And I wanted to kind of go back a tad into like the world being a lot focused, more geared towards neurotypical people, because the people that aren't neurotypical or the neurodiverse people, I think there's something that is extra hard for them, because they might have a lot of friends, acquaintances, family. They might have a lot of just relationships in general that are with somebody who is neurotypical. And so a lot of the times, if you're struggling with something and you're trying to talk about these things and you're trying to get help and you're seeking some sort of guidance or answers, or really just somebody to listen to you and to give or to not give you feedback about it, well, you talk to somebody who's neurotypical and they're going to give you these generic responses, not because they don't care, but just because they simply don't understand what you're going through. They have no idea how to help you.
It's so amazing, and I say amazing in the effect of the way that there can be two completely different quote unquote spectrums of a thinking mind, of a truly brilliant mind. The way that can be compounded is outstanding to me. I literally don't even know how to comprehend it, because I've only got one end of it.
Yeah.
But the fact that there can be two completely different ends of brilliance in that shape, two completely different ends of thought, you guys can meet in the middle and start at two completely different ends.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, and there it's sometimes it's hard for people that are neurodiverse to make friends with the people, because they're just a lot. Like, all of my relationships, every single person I've ever dated has cheated on me. All of them.
Really?
Yeah, every single one. And I think that the biggest reason behind that is just because I'm a lot to handle. I'm chaotic. There's most of this, well, all of it was before I was medicated, because once I started dating my wife, about, around that time frame is when I got diagnosed with ADHD, and I started getting medication for it. But even at the start of our relationship, she was like, holy fuck. Like, what did I get myself into?
What
because
the fuck?
I'm a lot. But instead of abandoning me and just being like, I can't fucking handle this, she took the time to do research, to join different threads and forums and watch videos and read books and talk to people about how to be a partner with somebody who has ADHD. And she wanted to learn as much information as she could about me and my mental state and all of this stuff, so that she could make it work. But those other people, it wasn't even a thought. I mean, they just gave up. They were like, this guy's fucking way too much.
It's just fucking bullshit.
Yeah. And so and that goes with just any relationship that you're in, whether it's friends or family or whatnot. Right now, pretty much the only people that I'm really, really good friends with are people that are neurodiverse. And it doesn't have anything to do with whether I like these people or they're kind of people. The thing that I live by is love everybody and tell the truth 100% of the time. I love everybody the same. I give everybody the same opportunities, the same amount of myself, essentially. The matter of fact is that it just simply doesn't work a lot of the time. We're operating on two way different sides of the spectrum. And so it's hard to get that mutual understanding. And so that could be another big effect on mental health, is the thinking that there's something wrong with you. Like, why can't you keep friends? Why can't you keep partnerships? Why can't you... What's wrong with you that somebody else is just... You can't find somebody that's willing to stick with you through all of that stuff. And simply put, I think that it's just because there's just a lack of understanding. If you like, as much research as my wife has done on ADHD and autism and all of that, there's still things where if I talk to her about things, there's nothing she can do to help me. So I'm in therapy for cognitive behavioral therapy to help with these things that really nobody else can understand. I mean, even other people with ADHD, there is a more of an understanding, but since it's sort of a case-by-case thing, it's, if they're like, well, try this is what I do, it doesn't always help.
Right.
So you need sort of that broader spectrum,
Well, I connect with that last part. I feel pretty often like I'm alone in a world. Not necessarily to the strongest degree, but to some degree, to my thoughts and my processes. I definitely do feel like it's super bizarre that I'm the only one that understands certain circumstances.
Yeah.
But I want to end this on a good note with everything that you were kind of just saying, and how you live your life and how you live your day to day.
It's a brief synopsis of there's
don't be an asshole about it.
There's so much more to it, but
I know,
just a general introduction into that, I would say. Yeah.
Well, how do you treat everybody on the same initial basis?
100%.
Of
Everybody. What do you mean?
Of what? I feel like you and I are on the same page here, because I do the same thing to everybody. Without initial judgment, I try to give everybody the same respect and the same love that I would hope to get in return.
Right.
Regardless of any circumstance. I was just trying to reverberate kind of how you were explaining it. You said it much better than I did.
Well, here's the thing, is that, without going into cliches about, like, you can't judge a book by its cover and blah, 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 you don't really know a person until you spend time with them and all that fucking dumb shit. Well, the thing is that even in situations where you've been so fucked by friends, by relationships, like, for example, me, I've been cheated on in like 10 different relationships, but going into my relationship with my wife, I wasn't like, oh, this is probably going to happen, I shouldn't trust her, I should just assume all these things, because why? She hasn't given me a reason to feel that way. She hasn't done anything to me to raise those red flags or to make me feel that way. So you can't go around just judging people before you get to know them, because whether it's by looks or by the things that they're saying or whatever, because some people don't put 100% of themselves out there all the time for everybody to see.
Well, most people don't.
Yeah, I would say a lot of people don't.
Yeah, the majority, for sure.
And so if you do have that mindset of, well, I don't like the way that this person looks, or I don't like the way that this person talks, or whatnot, then you could be potentially missing out on a lifelong relationship with somebody, a lifelong friendship, a lifelong just good ass relationship. And not only that, but with that person, but with other people as well.
Boy, that speaks to my soul in a way that you wouldn't understand. You might understand, actually. You just don't know what the future has. You don't know what this particular conversation might have in store for you with somebody you just met. On any initial connection. And I get to experience this pretty often, and I feel kind of blessed to be able to say that. In my line of work, I meet a lot of different people, day to day, different people every single day, and sometimes my working into being a little bit more kind goes farther for some than it would for others. And I'm super thankful to say that because of that, I try with every single person that I encounter to have that same attitude of you just, regardless of what it is that you're looking at, who it is that you think you know, or what it is that you think you see, just go into it with an open mind and an open heart. You just plain and simply don't know.
Well, dude, even just smiling at somebody can change their whole life.
Yeah.
It can change their day. It can change their week. Taking the time to just ask somebody how they're doing or acknowledge that they exist. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, but you're driving and you pull up to a stoplight and nobody makes eye contact with anybody anymore.
No.
And it's like, it's almost as if so many people just go through life not even acknowledging that anybody exists but them. And sometimes, the person next to you could be fucking on edge, and as all as they want is just to feel like they're existing in the same world as everybody else. And so if you look at them and you smile or you wave, or you see a homeless person on the side of the street and they're like, have the sign up and they're like, I need money for blah blah blah, well, like, you don't have to give them money, but fucking wave at them, throw up a peace sign, smile at them, acknowledge that they are also a human who either made a dumb choice or just got dealt a bad hand. But either way, I mean, I view everybody as equal. I don't care how high you are up on the fucking food chain or how low you are on it. If you, in my opinion, if you're not yourself 120% of the time, what's the point?
I agree with you 100%.
Like, I'm a pretty open book, and sometimes I share a lot of things that might not be appropriate in every situation about myself. But the thing is that I don't hide anything. I don't keep anything in. I don't adjust myself to certain people, because at the end of the day, if I want any sort of relationship with these people, whether it's friends, acquaintances, something bigger than that, eventually you're going to release all of yourself. You're going to find out about them. They're going to find out about you. And so you might as well just start with that stuff up front. Take it or leave it. Here's the full package. Here's everything that you're getting. This is me. And if you don't like it, if it's not your cup of tea, that's fine. We don't have to dislike each other at all, but we can just continue on existing together and being friendly, but not developing anything further from it, simply just because it's not something that will probably work out too well, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that a lot of issues in the world stems from people not genuinely being themselves.
God, that's gonna start a whole ass another episode. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use you as a whiteboard. That's what I was just writing out. because I have a few topics that I want to delve into.
Sure.
Not tonight.
Yeah, I could fucking talk for hours, man.
Yeah, dude, my interest is peaked right now. I'm like a fucking just a child with a comic book. I just want to keep fucking flipping pages. But whew, I'm excited. You're gonna be here next Friday, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Oh god, I can't fucking wait.
I am here for the long run.
All right. I'm super excited about it. I think you and I are going to connect on levels that I wouldn't have expected otherwise. And I think that we're going to have a lot of good conversation.
I think so, too. I know so.
So, I'm excited for more. And now you get to learn the hard part of this operation.
Sure.
All the plugs.
Yeah. Well, but before we go into that, I just want to say, for anyone listening who is struggling with something, please, 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 don't be afraid to get help with whatever it is that you're going through. As dumb as it may seem, as embarrassing as it may seem, as much as you might not want to do it, there's nothing wrong with you. It happens to so many other people. And getting it dealt with, rather than just keeping it as this like deep, dark secret or something that you hold on to, it's not even comparable. My life was fucking miserable before I got diagnosed and put on medication for ADHD. It wasn't even tolerable for me to just exist day by day. And now that I'm getting older, I've had these longer episodes dealing with depression and dealing with more severe anxiety, and it's just not fucking worth it to keep that shit to yourself. So rather than letting it consume you, I really, really, really encourage you to go seek help. Either talking to some friends or doing something that you love to do, something that makes you happy, whatever it is. As hard as it may be, I would advise to do that, because I think the outcome is much more worth it than just dealing with it by yourself. Even just spitting it out, like word vomit to somebody, just getting it out of your body, writing it down, typing it out, recording yourself saying it, just talking to yourself. I talk to myself all the fucking time. Just getting it out of your body helps so much, but it helps even more if you do that to somebody and with somebody that has even the slightest amount of understanding, or somebody that genuinely cares about you. And another thing is, being on medication doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you or that you're lesser than anybody else.
Absolutely not.
It's
Ever.
okay. It really does help. There could be downsides of it, sure. There could be a lot of things that go with it. Definitely do your research. Go talk to the people you need to talk to. Get an appropriate diagnosis. Try to figure out what it is, and then try every method that you can to overcome it. And I promise it'll be so much better for you. And it's okay. And you're gonna be okay no matter what it is.
So one of my favorite parts of the ending plugs that we like to introduce episode to episode, kind of varies, to all of the listeners listening, I'll say worldwide, because it's reached places it shouldn't have reached.
That's incredible.
It is super incredible to see those statistics, and I fucking love every one of you listening. I always like to include a little bit about me saying so much. No. See, if you have a specific connection with one of our continuous guests outside of Sheldon and Zach, or even with them, then feel free absolutely to reach out specifically. The email again is meversusmeinfo@gmail.com. It will go exactly where it needs to go, and your response can be as personal as you need it to be, specifically to you or on air, however you choose. These connections will be kept private if need be. No hesitation to absolutely make that outreach. So,
yeah, and I don't do a ton of social media at the moment, just because I can't be fucking asked to be involved with all of that. But I do have connections that I will link at some point soon. Honestly, 100%. Feel free to reach out with questions, concerns, anything. If you just want somebody to listen and not respond at all, that's
100%.
perfectly okay.
100%. That email will go straight to me, and I will send it to the appropriate party. No questions asked. So if that is the case, any of our guests, I have personal connections with any of them, especially Sheldon and Zach. But any of them that have been involved, I can reach out. meversusmeinfo@gmail.com. And as always, check out the YouTube links, the Facebook, the Instagram. Give it a like, a subscribe, a follow, please.
Yeah, and also please share your personal experiences with anything.
Absolutely.
Like the more that we bring awareness to all of this, and the more people you'll find out are similar to you and that are on your side, it's great. So please feel free to share your experiences, what helps you, what works for you, what you've gone through, that kind of stuff as well. We'll read all of it, and we'll respond if we can.
Absolutely. I'm excited for the outreach, and just like all the descriptions show, just remember that in all of this, you're not alone.
Absolutely not.
That's a promise. And don't forget it.
Love you guys.
We love you, and have a good night.